All right, we're ready.
Now
Hey,
we're ready.
if you remember or if you forgot to send money for this month. All right, we get to study Torah for the sake of heaven today, and we're going to go over the kings of Edom. I made for everybody a little printout here, and for the guys online and on the phone, you can read along in Genesis. And if you guys will, get you a clean sheet of paper beside you and draw you some sporadic structures. Draw you the 10 sphirot, because each one of these names, each one of these words in this entire deal has something to do with the sporadic structure. All right. So just in review, because we're gonna encounter some of this. The partsufs are when there is a sphirot within a sphirot, and these are 5 deep. Okay, because you have the tip of the yud, hey vav hey is one reason. There's many other reasons. Okay, but for the sake of this class, just know that there's going to be times where they say the Tiferet of Yesod. So Teresa, if I said, where is Tiferet of Yesod, where would you show that to me? Where would you show that to me on the sporadic structure?
All right, we'd have to look in.
Just point. Tiferet of Yesod.
Yesod. Yeah, now we have to.
Yep, that's Yesod, and then find Tiferet.
This one right here,
No,
inside.
Tiferet is the middle one.
Oh, in the middle
right
one.
there. See, so if I say the Tiferet of Yesod, you know what I'm saying.
Yes.
All right? You guys with us over here?
Right here,
Look at your.
right there.
No, that would be Tiferet of Tiferet.
Oh, that's right here.
That's Tiferet of Yesod. So in other words, if I'm talking about Hesed, over here.
This one is showing the
Gotta
odd,
get my
isn't it?
cheat
Yeah.
sheet out.
yeah, this one's showing the
Yeah,
ot because
but
we got to have the ot. All right.
Should we just go ahead and write those in?
No. Because we're only writing the ones that I call out when I'm reading.
Okay.
I'm just kind of giving you a review so that you know if I say Guvarot of Hesed, you're not looking over here at Guvarot, you're looking at Hesed, and then you're looking and you're writing beside the Guvarot of Hesed. All right? Because what we have to remember from last week is the light overlaps. Remember, always remember, light overlaps. God's constantly overlapping himself within himself. All right? Now, as we discussed last week, when we had the shattering of the vessels, we're going to go in here and we're going to read from the apples of the orchard today, the Ori's work. And it's where he's gone in and the Leshem and stuff have broken this down, and they put it in print so we can read it. Before we hear the Leshem speeches, which we're going to do from Rabbi Bakst, that's done in Hebrew, and then he translates Hebrew. Before we do that, because it's confusing, I wanted to do this first, even if it takes us 2 weeks. I want to do this first so you'll know what they're talking about. All right? Now, quick review. We have a Rekonpin, who can be the Keter in this story. We have Abba Ima, Chochmah Bina, right? And Zeranpin. Zeranpin is the middle, the Medot, all right? And the Nukva, or the bottom. That's the kingdom, that's the land, that's the earth, that's the Malchut, that's the Shekhinah, that's all the things, that's the house, that's the bet, that's all these things we've discussed over the past few weeks. So, if you would now turn your attention to your study, to this printout, and to Genesis 36, where it talks about the kings of Edom. Let us begin. Bela ben Beor ruled in Edom, and the name of his city was Den Havah. Bela died. And Yovav ben Zerach of Batzerah ruled in his place. Yovav died. And Cushan from the south land, ruled in his place. Cushan died. And Hadad ben Badad, who smote Midian in the field of Moab, ruled in his place, and the name of his city was Avet. Hadad died. And Samlah from Masrekah ruled in his place. Samlah died. And Shaul from Rehovot Nahar ruled in his place. Shaul died. And Baal Hanan ben Achbor ruled in his place. Baal Hanan ben Achbor died. And Hadar ruled in his place, and the name of his city was, it's called Pei, or Pau, and his wife's name was Mahetavel bat Matrid bat Maizehav. These are the 8 kings who ruled in the land of Edom before any king ruled the children of Israel. This account is repeated in the book of Chronicles with minor changes, as will be noted. Now, we're going to dive into each one of these kings in depth. And we are only going to scratch the surface until we get more from the lesson. But the surface is way deep. So, here we go. We will now explain the mysteries of these kings and their deaths. But first, we must answer the following questions. Question number 1. Why, for only some of the kings, such as Bela ben Beor and Hadad ben Daad, does the Torah mention their cities? All right, so go back up here to your deal and notice that some of them, only the cities where they're from are mentioned. Why does it mention the name of the wife only in the case of the last king? Why in the case of Hadad ben Badad does the Torah tell us that he smote the Midian in the field of Moab, but does not tell us similar historical details about the other kings? Question number 4. Why does the Torah tell us the names of 4 kings' fathers and not the other 4? So where it says Ben, thus indicating the father's name. Why, in the case of Cushan, does the Torah mention where he came from, but does not do so with the others? Why does the Torah note the fact that the kings died except for the last one? Also, why are there the following differences in the passage and parallel the passage in Chronicles? The Torah mentions that Bela ben Beor ruled, but the book of Chronicles does not mention the fact that he ruled.
Different authors have different way of expressing things.
No. It's code. It's critical. It's so precise. It's so precise. The code of God is so precise, and that's what we're fixing to do, is break down the code. Up until now, what we've been getting in this class is a vocabulary lesson so that we can understand the code. The Torah, in describing the death of Cushan, writes his name without a vav in the book of while in the book of Chronicles it is written with a vav. And of course, our vav is here, so that's going to indicate something. All right. The Torah records the name of Hadad's city as Avet with an A, A-V-I-T. While in the book of Chronicles, it is written as if it was pronounced with an I, I-V-A-T, even though it is still read with the A, sounded with an A. It is written with an I.
Where is it written? In Chronicles with an I?
Chronicles with an I.
Are you back to question 1 now?
No, I'm just going through all these different...
Well, you gave us 7 questions. Now, which question?
No. This is subset A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Under
1.
under question A. 8, because we're dealing with Chronicles.
Okay, question number 8 then is
8,
what?
8A. 8A is the Torah mentioned Belabor ruled, but the book of Chronicles does not mention that fact. B, the Torah mentioned the fact that Cushan died, describes his death. His name is written without a vav in the Torah. In the book of Chronicles is written with a vav. C, the Torah records the name of Hadad's city as Avet, while in Chronicles it is pronounced with Avet, Avat, rather. In Torah, it is written, this is D, in Torah it is written that Baal Canaan ben Achbor died, while in the book of Chronicles it is written that Baal Canaan died, without mentioning his father's name. In Torah, the 8th king's name is Hadar, ending with a resh, with a R. While in the book of Chronicles, it is given his name as Hadad, ending with a dalet, with a D. The Torah does not mention the 8th king's death, while in the book of Chronicles, it does mention his death.
The 8th king?
Yes.
I have a question.
Yes,
In
ma'am.
the book of Chronicles, is it like it is in Genesis,
Mhm.
where it's just, where is it located at?
I'm not exactly sure. I didn't even look that up.
Okay, are you in E, F?
I'm in G. In the Torah, the 8th king's city is Pei, spelled P-A''U, while in the book of Chronicles, it is given as Pei, P-A''I. These are the questions that we're going to go through and answer. Now, what we have to start wrapping our mind around is these letters, the vavs and the dalets, and what they're signifying on the Sephardic structure. And we also have to wrap our mind around Abba, Ima, Zeranpin, Nukva, because it's all about Zeranpin and Nukva. All right. There's these, obviously these are kings of Edom. They're the evil side, or the back side, if you will. All right. And then, so we're going to have people and kings that are going to be the front side, the rectifiers. We have Tohu and Bohu, chaos and order. All right. So as we go through these, when we go through these 8 kings, it's going to be explaining to us some glimpses of what's going on and who these are. Because remember, the false, I don't want to say the fall, that's a bad term here. The shattering of the vessel started in Da'at with the light. All right? So we're going to have to start in Da'at. And so because we have to start in Da'at, guess what? The kings of Edom start the same spot. All right? So here we go. Know that the Zohar applies the account of these kings to the state of affair before Arikonping was rectified, and does the same in regard to the state of affairs to Zeranpin before it was rectified, and before the Nukva of Zeranpin was rectified. So before Tikkun, before the rectification process, is what this is alluding to. This is because the state of stringent judgment personified by these kings issued immediately after Hokmah and Binah issued. Whether in the case of Hokmah and Binah of Arikonpin, in the case of Hokmah and Binah of Zeranpin, or in the case of Hokmah and Binah of Nukva of Zeranpin. All right? Do y'all understand what he's talking about there? Let's go to our Sephardic structure. Okay? If we start with Keter, before Hokmah and Binah of Arikonpin got together, or before Hokmah and Binah got together, or before Hokmah Binah of Zeranpin got together, which would be Hesed Guvarot, or if we're in Malchut, before Hokmah Binah of Malchut, which is the Nukva.
Well, that's because they're laid over. You're
They're-
talking.
yeah, remember everything is light is overlapping, because when these two get together, we have Da'at, and the whole shattering of the vessels started in Da'at. So what he's saying, before the union, whether it be a Rikanpin up here, or whether it be down here in Zeranpin, or whether it be at Malchut of the Nukva, because it was all there working in the same, before the fall, before the shattering, all that was one thing. So it doesn't matter if we're going to say at that point, Rikanpin, Zeranpin, and Nukva, although they are all three, boom, 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 just like we did on this chart the other day, all right, on this little layout, all right. This is a very difficult topic, all right, very difficult topic, and we're going to go through, and I'm going to try to explain it to the best of my ability. This is why the Zohar quotes the verse, "And these were the kings that ruled in the land of Edom." In the case of the Nukva, only after describing how its Hokman Bina is issued. From this fact you can infer that the same applies with the others. For even though in their case the Zohar cites the Zohar cites this verse at the beginning of its discussion of them, it means to apply only to after their Hokman Bina issued forth. In each of these cases, Rikanpin, Zeranpin, Nukva, these kings, who personified judgment, only after Hokmah and Bina issued. So only after Hokmah and Bina got together, that all these kings, no matter what level it's coming from, did it happen, because it leaned to the side of Bina. Bina is the side of judgment. Bina is the side that comes from Guvarot. But Bina is also the side of Tikkun, which is front side of Bina. All right, here we go. Therefore, the supernal source of emanation had to rectify the mentalities of each of these partsuf, because Hokman Bina is the right brain, left brain, right? By means of the rectification of the head and the rectification of the beard. Okay? Giving these three partsufim something of a duality of male and female, in order that male and female subsequently issued from them simultaneously. The rectification of the head and the rectification of the beard are terms for the arrangement of the divine flow of consciousness from these partsufs to the ones below them. As we have seen, these arrangements are identified as God's attributes of mercy. All right. The reason these states of severe judgment issued as soon as Bina appears as is follows. Strict judgment is aroused by Bina, as is known. These states of judgment were aroused to issue from it, but they did not endure in the female side until the male and female issued together. Some of them were made fragrant on the side of holiness. Some of them were made not fragrant and passed to the other side. So in other words, the ones that were mitigated were fragrant. The ones that were not mitigated fell to the other side. That's the creation of the kings in total. So we're going to have kings that quote unquote God loves, kings that quote unquote God doesn't love, so to speak.
So when you say the other side, you're saying the unholy side?
The unholy side, which is only the other side of God.
Right.
But
as opposed to the holy side.
As opposed to the holy side. But remember that it's all flowing and falling down to Netzach Hod Yesod. Because as we let me get this out of here, Teresa. Because as we saw, it's always going to end up with the At being over Yesod and Hokmah Bina over. Hokmah Bina over Netzach Hod, and the next one over Netzach Hod Yesod. So what we're seeing is the backside, quote unquote, is Netzach Hod Yesod. Netzach Hod Yesod.
Okay.
Netzach Hod Yesod.
All the way down.
All the way down.
As it emanates down.
As it emanates down. Because the front side is Hokmah Binah Da'at. The back side is Netzach Hod Yesod. Does that make sense? Because it's... Okay.
Gotcha.
All right.
But now what happened? Now why didn't they become fragrant?
Because Netzach Hod Yesod is considered a dual singularity. Remember from last week?
Okay.
Where Hokmah Binah is Abba Ima.
Okay.
So the father and mother can get together.
Right.
Here, these are already one. These are simultaneously one at that point. Remember,
Netzach
Netzach and Hod. They're two halves of one thing. So they really didn't have at this point Abba Ima, because that's on the front side.
Okay.
So they're according to backside, which has not been able to be mitigated yet.
So unmitigated is singularity?
Yeah.
In a sense, or?
Well, it's non-union.
Okay.
Non-union's a good term.
Is it like Adam in the beginning? Not divided yet?
No. They do not have. We're trying to establish male-female counterparts here, but Netzach Hod do not at this point have male-female counterparts because they're only one thing. They're two
Is
halves.
that not like Adam before Eve was?
No, because Adam had everything. Adam's problem was he could see Netzach Hod Yesod, which was Lilith. And he thought that if he mitigated that, you see where Adam was going with that? If he mitigated, it would be sweetened and it would be over. No. It's there was for him, Hava, Eve, that he was able to have as Ima. The front side of Binah, or Hod, at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where Adam made his miscalculation, but it was all for purpose.
So was he on the backside of Bima?
No, but he could see it.
With Lilith?
He could see it because
With Lilith.
at that point he brought her in. It doesn't matter if backside is metaphoric. It doesn't matter if he went to the backside or she came to the front side. Because what's the side? All right, let's continue. Regarding how these kings that issued from Arikonpim became null and died, the matter is deep, deep, deep. Who can fathom it? It is very hidden and not alluded to in the Torah at all. Only by understanding what occurs in the lower Partsufim can we understand what occurs in the higher ones. In contrast, the details of how the kings ruled in Zeranpin and Nukva are alluded to in the Torah and in the book of Chronicles. So, if you're studying the book of Torah, these kings are the kings of Zeranpin. If you're studying them in Chronicles, those are the kings of the Nukva. That's why their names are changed.
So Chronicles is
the Nukva. And the kings in the Torah and 36 are Zeranpin. We're getting the story of Zeranpin and the kings, and then the kings in the Nukva, which are the rectified kings. The kings of Tikkun of the Nukva.
in the
Is
Torah.
that the same thing as Chronicles, right?
Yes.
And what was the Torah?
The kings of Edom, the 36, chapter 36.
Is the
Those are the kings of Zeranpin.
Zeranpin.
Yeah. Chad wrote here, he said the names are giving righteous names of righteous people. All right, Chad, that's very good. Now, what is righteous in Hebrew? Your Sphirot.
Tzaddik.
What's your Sphirot? Which Sphirot is the Sphirot of righteousness on your Sphirot? This is important. It's Yesod. Righteous is Yesod. Tzaddik, Yesod. Alright? So the reason when God talks about the righteous, he's talking about Yesod. Always Yesod. Alright? Now, let's go on. Or it's okay. We'll be here forever. It doesn't matter. The description of the kings in the book of Genesis describes their existence in Zeranpin, while the description in the book of Chronicles describes their existence in the Nukva. Okay? This is why it says in Torah, and these are the kings who ruled in the land of Edom. But continues, Bel ben Beor ruled in Edom, not repeating the words the land of.
So the land equals what?
Oh no. The land of Edom signifies Nukva of Zeranpin, which is called the land, while Edom by itself refers to Zeranpin. Since Esau, who is Edom, is paralleled to Jacob, it is written, he is Esau, the father of Edom. So this is Genesis. This is mentioned in Genesis 36:43, Genesis 36:1, and Genesis 36:8.
Was chapter 43?
Chapter 36:43. It's all in chapter 36. 36:1, 36:8, 36:43.
Okay.
As we know, Jacob is Zeranpin. Jacob is Zeranpin. So who would Rachel be? If Jacob is Zeranpin, who is Rachel? She's the Nukva.
Yes.
She's the Nukva. So who is Leah?
Leah would be so.
Leah was the backside that he pulled out because she was supposed to marry who?
Esau.
Who is the king of Edom.
So Leah's the backside of...
Yeah, but what specific sphere would she be associated to?
The Nukva of Edom.
The Nukva of so it would be Malchut of...
Malchut of the back of Malchut.
Leah's the backside of Malchut.
In a sense. She is not the backside. But she personifies the Lilith, and he's drawing that spark out. What Jacob is doing there is tikkun for Adam with Lilith. All right. Actually, Lilith is Malchut of Bina. The Partsuf of Bina, right up here. I believe she's the Malchut of Bina. All right.
Leah or Lilith is?
Yes.
Which one?
Both.
Okay.
The Torah describes the kings who ruled in Zeranpin. It is therefore written, Bela ben Beor, who ruled in Edom, and not in the land of Edom, in order to indicate that these states of stringent judgments existed in Zeranpin itself. These kings issued from Bina of Zeranpin and sought to settle in Zeranpin, but could not. The Torah therefore says in Edom, since Edom is, in the words of the Zohar, where judgment is bound and connected, referring to Bina of Zeranpin. And of course we know Isaac refers to Guvarot, which is on the side of Bina, and we have the binding of Isaac, because that's where the bound judgment comes from. So we see Abraham, who is Hesed, in the story. He's going through, and he is doing tikkun for the shattering of the vessels. All right? This explains why the Zohar, when discussing the kings who ruled in Zeranpin, quotes as well the verse, and Bel-Beor who ruled in Edom. But when discussing the kings who ruled in the Nukva, Chronicles, only the verse says, and these are the kings who ruled in the land of Edom. This is also why the Zohar, in the context of the Nukva, mentions the place where all judgment is found, and these are the rectifications of the female. Proof that the description of the kings within a Rekanpin is not alluded to in Torah is the fact that no mention of them is made in the Zohar either. They are kings. They, the kings, are mentioned only in connection with Zeranpin and Nukva. What he's basically saying is, you know, nothing happens to the top. There's no virus that attacks the top. It's pure. All right.
Okay, when you said all judgment occurs in, was it Edom?
Yes. See what Hashem is doing here is he's creating with the feminine. Well, the feminine is the side of judgment. When the masculine is the side of mercy. So when he's creating with the feminine, the only thing there is judgment. And so when he creates the feminine, and now the two can unite, when they united, the shattering of the vessels occurred to create more, basically. But as it's creating more, it's for the purpose of creation to rectify itself, so that Zeranpin can now couple with Nukva and repair everything from that side up. So what we're fixing to see is the evil kings are going to manifest themselves. They're only in potential state here. When after Genesis happens, we're going to start seeing these evil kings rear their ugly heads. The Nimrods of the world, the Balaams of the world. All right? And then we're going to start seeing the opposite of that, because we have to have polarity, negative and positive. We're going to see the Abrahams of the world and the Moseses of the world and the Josephs of the world. All right? And so what we're seeing is the creation of all that is to come in potential form. In Abba Ima, Bina, and Zeranpin, and in Nukva of Arikanpin, until it gets down to Adam Harishon, the Adam of Genesis. Then it starts manifesting itself.
Okay, lest I get through the whole thing and not understand anything. Arikanpin is where?
Arikanpin, just for the sake of this discussion, is Keter.
Okay, it's Ketcher.
Yeah, for the sake of this discussion.
Okay, what about Nukva?
If Nukva is Malchut.
Malchut.
Yeah.
And Zeranpin?
Is the Midot.
The Midot.
Yeah. The 6 mil.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Now, that we have demonstrated that these kings allude to Zeranpin and Nukva, and as they existed in a Rekanpin, they are hidden. They hadn't manifested themselves yet. All the discrepancies mentioned above in the Torah and the books of Chronicles will become clear. 4. The kings mentioned in the Torah of those of Zeranpin, and as we said before, those who are mentioned in Chronicles are the Nukva of Zeranpin. Therefore, regarding the kings of Zeranpin in the Torah, it says, and Bela ben Beor ruled in Edom. While regarding those in the Nukva, or the book of Chronicles, it does not say he ruled in Edom itself, only that he ruled in the land of Edom. Because the land is the Nukva. So it has to say in the land, not that he ruled Edom. Because now we're talking about the land. Because the land is in Malchut, and Malchut is Nukva. So that's why in that first verse there, it says in the land over here in Chronicles, and it doesn't say in the land here. Because we're talking Zeranpin. All right. I know this is
Okay,
Very difficult.
in Zeron-Pen,
Mhm.
it's called, instead of land, it's called what?
Edom.
Edom, okay.
The first king. Here we go. The first king. Bela ben Beor. On your sheet there. Personifies Da'at. He is Da'at. Which issues forth after Bina, opposite Da'at in the realm of evil, issued the Gentile prophet Balaam ben Beor. Do you see how Bela ben Beor sounds a whole lot like Balaam ben Beor? As the sages state, it is written in the Torah, there arose no prophet in Israel like Moses, but amongst the Gentiles, the backside, there did arise such a prophet, namely Balaam. Just as Moses personifies Da'at on the side of holiness, so did Balaam personify Da'at on the side of evil, inasmuch as he personified strict judgment as well.
Say that. Spell that word you're saying.
Da'at.
Dot.
Da'at.
D-A-A-T.
D-A-A-T. D-A apostrophe A-T. Now,
I couldn't
remember,
just understand what he was saying.
remember on our study of Da'at, when we studied that if you spell all that out, it spells Leviathan. Remember that? All right, and it also
There's two Leviathans.
yeah, there's two Leviathans, and what he said he castrated the male Leviathan.
Uh-huh.
Why? Because remember it's Netzach and Hod. Netzach and Hod.
And what is next up? No.
Yeah, it's the testicles.
Yes, exactly.
All right, so it's
So
all
were there two
code.
Leviathans, one in the back and one in the front?
Well, male and female, male and female, male and female.
Okay, is Bela ben
See-
Beor the grandfather then
No,
of
Balaam ben Beor is just the
Balaam,
prophet.
or was Balaam?
Well,
Balaam
he is the personification of that person.
he was in the spirit realm before the person was
He
born.
was the initial manifestation. Balaam is the physical manifestation.
Would you say it's a soul root?
Oh, absolutely.
It's
It
what?
is
So
the soul.
It is the soul root.
It is
So-
the soul.
So Balaam is connected to Balaam ben Beor.
Absolutely.
And that is that.
It's kind of like his grandfather.
Yeah. If you want
On
to
a
say,
spiritual
on a
sense.
spiritual sense, yes. Yes.
Yeah, I don't mean
Okay.
on earth.
Yeah.
Now, Bela is spelled Bet Lamed Ain. And Balaam is spelled Bet Lamed Ain Mem. Because Mem is from Bina. The final Mem, the 40, are spelled exactly the same except for the final Mem that ends in the word of Balaam. Thus, they are considered to be the same person, or at least personifications of the same spiritual archetype. Okay? Balaam was a Gentile prophet hired by Balak, whose name sounds very similar, to curse the Jews on the eve of their entry into the land of Israel. He was granted prophecy, even though he misused this gift and was evil, so that the non-Jews could not claim that had they too had a prophet like Moses among their ranks. They would have to accept the Torah and obey God's word. Moses personified the Sphirot of Da'at. Also, he personifies the Sphirot of Netzach, but also Da'at. Subjective to the knowledge of God, and imparted this quality to the Jewish people. Since Balaam was his equivalent on the evil side, he personified the evil Da'at, the other Da'at.
Yeah.
Now, we are taught that God becomes angry with the world for one moment each day. This is Psalms 30, verse 6. Does anybody know what that is?
I just read about that this morning. It's a different length of time depending on how we respond to it.
I'll give you a hint. It's the very time that, since we're talking about Balaam and Baalah and Baal, that the golden calf, the Baal, came forth out of the fire. You see how it's all coming together?
Mm-hmm.
It's high noon.
It's high noon.
High noon. High noon.
Oh, my answer was for how long it is.
The time is noon, depending on when noon is on the deal. And when is the most spiritual time?
High noon.
3
No.
o'clock in the morning.
No, the most spiritual time. It would be just 180 degrees opposite of high noon,
So at noon, midnight.
midnight. That's why you're supposed to study Torah at midnight, and that's why you're supposed to have union with your wife at midnight. That's why the mitzvah is that set up that way. You would think that darkness is evil, but it's not.
And that's why I'm a night owl.
Me too. Okay, let's continue. Balaam's main prophetic talent was that he always knew this very moment, the precise moment in each day, and could channel his energy to curse whomever he wished. He was using the guvarot, the dinning. He thus represents evil knowledge, the sensitivity to what is wrong with the world, judgment. Of course, a certain amount of this quality is necessary for us to be objectively evaluate our progress in life and improve our behavior, as this is why God allows himself to be judgmental for a split second in every day. But focusing exclusively on this quality, as Balaam did, is evil. Numbers 24 and 16. This is why Balaam boasted that he knows the supernal knowledge, Da'at. He was referring to Da'at that precedes the holy Da'at of Zeranpin. This is why he called it supernal knowledge. Just as from the third, i.e. posterior lobe of the brain of Zeranpin, which houses its Da'at, in the words of the Zohar, sits in the third cavity of the skull, and there it issues 1,000,000 rooms and halls, which houses the brain, and it presides and dwells in it. Chokhmah is the right side of the brain. Binah is the left. Da'at is the center, if we discussed. It's said to contain 1,000,000 lights. This is a state of consciousness that issue from Da'at and form the rooms. The rooms are the Hesed, Guvarot, and Teferet. The halls, the Netzach, Hod, Yesod.
The rooms are
Hesed, Guvarot, Teferet, the middle three, and the bottom three, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, are the halls. And
what about the chambers?
that's not alluded to here. Hesed, Guvarot, and Teferet are alluded to by the word rooms, because the word room in Hebrew is cheder, which is taken from the acronym of Hesed, Din, and Rachamim. Din is judgment, name for Guvarot. Rachamim means mercy, and the inner motive of Teferet. And Hesed is loving kindness, of course. Da'at comprises 5 states of Hesed, 5 states of Guvarot, as we have mentioned previously. Each of these 10 states are subdivided into 10 substates, giving us 100, and it's further divided into 10 substates, giving us 1,000. Elsewhere, if you multiply 1,000 times 1,000, you get 1,000,000. That's why they say there's 1,000,000 lights in Da'at. They just kept multiplying the spheroid. So it is regard to this evil Da'at, which expresses strict judgment and is synonymous with Bel Ben Ba'or. Thus the Zohar continues. It makes decrees of strict judgment, and together join it with 1,000,000 masters of moaning and groaning. The masters of moaning and groaning are the kings of Hesed and Guvarot, which we will discuss in a minute. They join with da'at since da'at comprises two modes of relation, hesed, attraction, guvurot, repulsion, and regulates them. Since the holy da'at enters and permeates the torso, filling the rooms and halls, this evil da'at is called Bela, for it is swallowed up inside the torso of the two cavities. For the word Bela means swallowing. It is further called Ben, the son of Beor, since Be means burning, of the Beor, B-E. The B-E apostrophe means burning, because the arousal of God's judgment is like a great inferno in the verse. From Malachi chapter 3 and 19. For behold, the day is coming, burning like an oven. This refers to the final judgment day.
What scripture is that?
Malachi 3:19. King Bela was somewhat rectified, and thus made it into the seventh king. If you will look on your study sheet there, Baal Hanan. Thus he was pardoned, this being the significance of the second word in his name, Hanan. The letters of the name Bela rearrange and spell Baal, the first name of Hanan. This means master of. Baal, master of. The word Hanan means to pardon or grace. So Baal Hanan means master of the pardon. You see how God is putting rectification even in the fall? The shattering of the vessels. As a part of this rectification, the letter Kaf was added to Bela's father's name, Beor. And thus, Baal Hanan was the son of Achbor, with the Kaf. Beord is spelled Bet, Ayin, Vav, Resh. Achbor is spelled Ayin, Kaf, Bet, Vav, Resh. Thus, these two names are composed of the same letters, except for Achbor, which possesses the letter Kaf. Now, it is known that women's knowledge is light. Therefore, the Zohar, in its discussion of the Nukva of Zeranpin, mentions only rectification of the two lobes of the brain. For the third lobe, Da'at, is light. For the same reason, in case of the kings who personified Da'at, kingship is not mentioned in the book of Chronicles. For the account of the Edomite kings in the book of Chronicles describes the Nukva, whose Da'at is light. In contrast, the account of the Edomite kings in Torah describes Zeranpin's itself, who does not possess full Da'at, so kingship is not mentioned. As we explain elsewhere, the male approach to life is relatively more abstract, while the female approach is relatively more practical. Thus, the female within us is the drive to consummate the purpose of creation by making the world into God's home, while the male within us is abstract drive for inspiration. In this context, it is clear why women's knowledge, i.e. their da'at, must be light. Da'at is tolerance, the ability to see the validity of other viewpoints, to compare and weigh in the merits of Hesed and Guvurot within any entity. And it goes on talking about Da'at here. Thus, the feminine side must not have strong Da'at, or their generous sense of tolerance, for that would contravene its purpose. The disadvantage of having light, Da'at, is that we can become intolerant of wrong things. This is one of the reasons why females are a little bit more tolerant, where males have very little tolerant, and we're Hesed, but they're Guvarot, which shouldn't make sense, but it has to do with the light of Da'at that they possess. Now, in the Torah, the account of the king is, and Bela ben Beor ruled in Edom. The name of the city was Den Havah. In the book of Chronicles, the corresponding verse reads, Bela ben Beor, and the name of the city was Den Havah. There's no specific mention of this king ruling, although his kingship is included with all that of the other kings in the opening verse. Jordan just called me here. He messed my concentration up. These are the kings who ruled in Edom. Kingship, Malchut, is a spherot of femininity, as can be from the fact that Malchut becomes the partsuf of Nukva, the female archetype. Thus, the absence of any mention of kingship with regard to Da'at in the account of Nukva alludes to the inherent deficiency strength in the feminine psychology. This answers question 8. Let me reply to him right quick here.
It answers question 8.
8A. All right. Moving on here. This was expounded by Yitzhak Ginsburg rather. And since this king personifies Da'at, as is said, and therefore comprises all the others, it is stated that the account of his rule, the name of his city was Den Havah. The holy Da'at draws the consciousness of the supernal Hesed, which is revealed in the mouth of Ima. From supernal mind, Ima transmits it to the bride, i.e. the Nukva. Nukva continuously requests this Hesed from its Da'at. We will see the remaining kings personify the Midot. Thus the first one corresponds with Da'at. Now, as you see, it keeps going. Bina, Malchut, Bina, Malchut, Bina, Malchut. Why? Look. Remember the emanation of Nekudim is Sog and Ben, Hay and Hay, feminine. See where it keeps talking about the feminine this, the feminine that, the feminine Da'at, the feminine this, blah, 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 blah. It's because we have Bina, Malchut. It keeps referring back and forth and back and forth and back and forth to that. All right. We're going to go just a little bit more here because we've got about 7 minutes, but it took an hour. It took an hour to do the first king. Mm-hmm. All right. Mm-hmm. We have 8 kings. All right. The mouth of Ima, at this point at which the intellect of Ima becomes self-expressive, inasmuch as Hesed is the first driving force of all the emotions, the supernal Hesed, the abstractive Hesed in the intellect. This is the potential within the intellect to invoke an emotional response that is made relevant by Da'at, which then passes this relevance and motivation to the Nukva, providing it with the drive to actualize and inspiration produced in the intellect. What it's saying is, when Abba and Ima get together, Da'at exists. When Da'at exists, it's wanting to give it to it's wanting to give that light to the ones below, ultimately to the Nukva. Well, this is what produced the whole shattering of the vessels. All right. So the same is true of the evil Da'at of judgment. The evil Nukva requests God's judgment from it. In the state of Zohar, saying, "Give judgment, Din Havah." That's why the first guy's city is Din Havah. It means give judgment. Thus, we are told the name of the city, just as we say the city of Zion is for David, for God created the opposite one first. You can't have a city of David, a city of Zion, if you don't have a city of Din Havah. You can't have the city of mercy until you have the city of judgment. So, like we said last time,
It's like death. You got to have death before you can have life.
that's right.
Same pattern.
Same pattern.
Same patterns going
You got to
on.
have chaos to make order. It's got to be out of order before you can put it in order. Here, the evil Nukva, which would be personified of Lilith and that type of deal. Here, the evil Nukva requests insight into how the world is imperfect and needs to be judged. The word Din Havah is seen as the combination of the two words Din and Havah, meaning give judgment. Isn't Eve's name Havah?
Oh, yeah.
Din Havah. So this is where we're getting the two sides of the Nukva that Adam, who is Zeranpin, is going to have.
Gonna have to have in order to.
Yeah, he's got chaos and order. He's got to fix the whole thing. So he's got
To make tikkun.
to make tikkun. All right. The city here is seen as the concretization of the ideals of the person who built it. Just as the King David's ideals were concretized in the city of Zion, the focus of the kingdom of Israel, so were the ideals of Ben Beor concretized in Din Havah.
Okay, Din Havah.
All right, and we will save the second king for next week.
Very, very good.
We'll bring the book next week.
What'd you say?
I said we'll bring the book next week. Read along.
What you're going to see is each one of these kings is one of the Sphirot. And you're going to see that every one of these words is going to be used again in the Torah when in the story of Solomon or in the story of Abraham or in the story of Moses or whatever. You're going to see these words recurring and recurring and recurring and recurring. What you're going to find out is the story is the same, the players are different.
Same
Man, there's
pattern.
so much is the same because what is the whole thing? You know, you get into the midrashes and stuff about Balaam and you know, where is Balaam? Balaam is boiling in a vat of semen because of the sexual sin that he caused Israel to go into, you know, and then but then also, you know, the Nitzach and Hod is the testicles, and it just never stops tying together.
It never stops tying together. And he rode a donkey. A donkey is a symbol of Riverot. And the fact of the matter is, the Midrash says that they used to have union.
I thought of that.
And so
That's why they were so close.
Yeah, that's why they were so close. And so there's lots of stuff going on. And once we flesh out these kings and we see what's going on that side, and then we come over here and see what's going on this side, then when we get to Beredim, which is Genesis. See, we can't get to Beredim until we get to Genesis 1. Well, we're not in Genesis, although we're in Genesis 36, this happened before Genesis 1.
We're not really in Genesis, yeah.
We're really not in Genesis. Okay? So that's what we're trying to do here, is we're trying to get to Genesis, but we've got to cover 974 primordial worlds. We've got to cover these kings. You know, we've got to see where it's all coming from. Then when we get to Genesis, now when we see what the tikkun is, we know what they're fixing.
Veradine, what is that?
Berudim is going to be the third installment here of Olam Akudim, Olam Nekudim, Olam Berudim.
And that's where
So
Genesis,
it's-
is that where Genesis starts?
That's where Genesis
It's
comes
another
start.
world? Is that
It's
what
a
it
whole
is?
other universe.
Oh, a universe.
Well, call it a world, Olam world. But yeah, it's going to be the world of Adam,
Olam.
Harishon.
Yes,
There-
so the Adam.
This is Adam Akadmon,
Right.
and then there's going to be Adam Harishon.
Right.
There's going to be an Adam Harishon. There's going to be an Adam, quote unquote, before the fall, and there's going to be an Adam, quote unquote, after the fall. And so we're going to have to study both of them.
Could you give us a list of the you got 2 Olams, and then the third one, Olam Veradim?
Berudim.
Can you spell it, please?
Beridum.
And this
The
whole,
or you can
D-I-M.
yeah, Dim. Berudim.
and that whole thing
It's-
is about Jacob and the sheep and coming
Yeah,
together with the
it's
spots and the stripes and the bands.
Berudim.
Yeah. I
All
got
right,
it.
and
Now, are there some more that are coming?
no.
There's just those 3
Mhm.
at this point.
Yeah. So we're going to have, that's the whole story of Jacob and Laban, and we're going to see here in a minute that his sheep are in this deal. I mean, once we get to the next king and the next king and next king, we're going to see Solomon's in this deal, King Saul. If you'll just look right quick on the 5th king. See, the guy's name is Shaul. It's King Saul. Where there's got to be a backside of Saul. There's got to be a front side. I mean, it's all and the Samlah.
Samuel.
See that? It's
Well, I wonder if we get into when we start getting into the procession of kings, like you have King Manasseh, which was evil, but what was his father's name? Not Herod, but Hezekiah, which was a very righteous king. And then you look
Jordan.
at
Hey there, we're going to link up?
Yeah, I'm in the middle of class right now.
Okay, bye.
if you got
All right, John, you're back.
you got these 2 kings. You got the father and or the grandfather. One is wicked, one is good. One is wicked, one is good. And
Everything-
you keep going down
everything
through.
is-
That's within the kings of Judea.
Yeah.
And I wonder if there's something.
Same thing. We have Isaac has Jacob and Esau. One is wicked, one is good. Everything is going to have a tikkun. Everything's going to have a positive and negative. It's going to go in.
Josiah was a good king. And then he had
It's
the other one.
unbelievable how the whole Torah, once you understand the Sorodic structure
The pattern.
and the pattern, and that's what we've been teaching is terminology. Zeranpin Nukva, Zeranpin Nukva, da 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 da. The Yosher Nagulim, we're going to find out that the Agulim is in the Torah, and the Yosher is going to be in the Chronicles, and it's just this and that, and this and that.
Have you thought about giving us a glossary?
Well, I don't know it till I come across it.
You don't know what.
Another thing we should be doing is basically writing our own glossary as these
Yeah.
terms come
That's
up.
what we're doing.
Yeah,
That's
because
that's
I
one of the
mean,
smartest
I
things to
don't
do.
know what terms to give you until I get to the term. What the
No.
next term is.
So when you give us the term, then we should be
Yeah.
learning
And,
it.
so
Right.
this week what I wanted y'all to do was on the Spirota of write all those little things on here, and then on the Spirota Da'at, write Bela ben Beor and Balaam.
Exactly.
And so you can keep your own little deal there.
And then when you read it in the Torah, you automatically go to Da'at when you see
You'll see what's going on, man. You'll see what's going on.
And it may take a while. It may take a couple of runs at it before
Yeah.
we start being able to put it together. So,
But we're
it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah. So we did the first king. We'll depending on how long it is, we should be able to do the second and third king next time pretty easily.
Let's not put time frames on. Let's just
No. We've got to get this down. We've got to go through this because
it's too important.
It's too important. If you don't understand the tohu, the expositions of the tohu, you can't understand the Torah.
Yeah.
You know, people can sit there and teach the Torah and say, well, Abraham, Abraham is Adam. Okay? Sarah is Eve. Great. Abraham is Zeranpin. Sarah is the Nukva. Great. And that's deep for a lot of people. But what are they doing? Lot is the Nakash. Lot's name means Lot. It means cursed. All right? They're in the plain. He's in the plain of Sodom. What's going on? Sodom, Edom. What's going on? Okay, great. But what we want to figure out is what the hell they're doing there. You know what I'm saying? What is Abraham and Sarah really fixing? Why do all the women in Torah, why are they all barren?
Except one.
Because Malchut has nothing of its own. We start learning those concepts.
So the women are all down there in Malkut?
Women are Malchut.
Yeah.
They're the Nukva. It's the feminine principle. Men are Ma. They're the Zeranpin. And so we in our lives are personified the exact same thing.
And why was Hava? Well, Hava was not barren because she was not Malchut.
Yeah.
And Sarah would actually took on the Ebor, the soul root that came in of Hava and gave her the ability to have child.
Yeah.
So and that's a midrash.
Yeah, and I mean, now, and then once you get to those midrashes, you start reading all that stuff. Once you understand what's going on and you know the verbiage and the language, it becomes not easy, but it becomes understandable to see what's going on. And so,
Good stuff.
next week, guys, if you can send your money online, through the mail, however, get it to me so I can get it to Rabbi. And then next week we'll go over the second king. The board will not change for a while because we have to flesh out all these kings. All right. Stages are amazing. Torah is amazing. We will see y'all next week.
Wednesday.
Wednesday, God willing.